Hey, my name is Ian, and this is my Rust project called LogBuddy. I built a small command line tool to practice Rust and to get more comfortable with things like ownership, references, and data structures. LogBuddy basically scans a folder, reads any .text or .log files, and counts how often each word shows up. So I'll start by showing how it runs, and then I'll walk through the code. So I'm going to enter the project folder and then run it with cargo using cargo run. So I'll do that now. So when the program starts, it prints a title and asks me for a folder path. I set up a logs folder with a few .text files already, so let me show you where those are at really quick for the sake of the example. So yeah, as you can see here, it's random notes, server1 and server2.txt. They have just a few lines of text here, and it is very basic just for the sake of the example here. So I'll go ahead and type .logs. Now the program goes through that folder, reads each .text and .log file, counts the words, and then prints a summary. So you can see how it shows how many files were processed right here, and how many total lines were read right there, and then the top words with their counts. So that gives a quick feel for what kind of messages are in the logs. So I'll go here into the actual code. So at a high level, LogBuddy just does a few things. So it asks the user for a folder path. It loops over the files in that folder and only keeps .text or .log files. It reads each file, splits the text into words, and then updates a hash map of word count. So at the end, it sorts the results and prints the top 10 most frequent used words. So let's go ahead and walk through the main parts of the code. So at the top of the file, I import the pieces I need. You can see up here. In the main function, I start with an immutable variable. Then I use a mutable variable to store the user's folder input right here. So I prompt the user, flush the output so it shows immediately, and then read a line from standard input. After that, I trim the input and check it with an if conditional. If the string is empty or the path isn't a directory, I print a message and return early. So next I create a hash map string usize called word counts and a couple of counters for how many files and lines we process. This is where the stretch requirement comes in, and I'm using a data structure from Rust standard library to keep track of how many times each word appears. So then I call the let entries equals fs read directory path. If that works, I loop over each entry. Inside the loop, I filter out anything that isn't a regular file, then check the file extension. I only keep .text and .log files. If it passes those checks, I call fs read to string to read the entire file into a string. For each file, I update the file's scanned count, the lines with contents.lines.count, then call my helper function. That would be count words in text. So this is where I'm using references instead of moving the string or the map. So this takes an ampersand str reference to the text and a mutable reference to the hash map. This lets me practice Rust borrowing rules. Main keeps ownership of the hash map, and the function just borrows it to update the counts. So inside this function, I use loops and conditionals. I split each line into words, clean them up by trimming non-alphanumeric characters, convert them into lowercase, and then either increment an existing count or insert a new entry into the map. This lets me practice if let syntax, mutation through get mut, and working with strings in Rust. So to wrap up, this project helped me understand how Rust handles mutable versus immutable variables, loops and conditionals in a real example, ownership and borrowing through function parameters, and using a hash map to accumulate results. LogBuddy is small, but it does enough to show how Rust can safely work with real data from the file system. So thanks so much for watching.